What's up guys, I'm J.R. out of BLACKEST, and as you're looking through my sketchbook you can see that we create a lot of art for the channel. But it's usually very traditional. We're using lines, shapes, line width, hatching, cross-hatching, coloring. But what if we actually did something a little different? What if we didn't use any lines or really any shape or construction to make our art? What if we used a single pattern like a dot, or better yet, a stamp to create an amazing and very unique piece of art? So let's go ahead and play that awesome intro and get into this incredible and possibly insane idea. Now this particular art style or way of creating art has a few different names. I most commonly know it as dot matrix art. That's what I called it, that's what I grew up with it being called, and that's what my professors called it in college, so that's what we're going to call it for this video. And just so we're on the same page, according to Wikipedia, the definition of dot matrix art is a two-dimensional pattern arranged using to represent characters, symbols, and images. Most types of modern technology use dot matrices for display information, including modern phones, television, and printers, and so forth. So there's our definition. Now, interestingly, dot matrix or repeating patterns have been used in comics pretty much since the beginning, both with the coloring of comics in early days and for many years to follow since then until the age of digital coloring, and with the one and only Jack Kirby's iconic Kirby Crackle, using multiple circles to render different types of energy. This is a technique that Jack Kirby created that we still see used today in movies, comics, animation, television, you name it, everyone steals from Jack Kirby. These Kirby Crackles are so iconic and a great example of this. I've even adopted it in my own art style and plan to make a tutorial later on this year about it. Taking a look at some of these old comics, you can actually see a lot of the dot matrix that I'm saying. It's always fun looking at these old comics and seeing the little dot matrix for the coloring because it's such an iconic element of the art style. Taking an in-depth look at the DC Comics Guide to Coloring and Lettering comic, you see that these dot matrices are actually a combination of cyan, magenta, yellow, and black, the CMYK color spectrum, which we use to do all of our printing. Using different percentages of these actual dots will create virtually any color, though the technology was limited in early comics and did get more refined as years went on before the eventual takeover of digital coloring. It's still really fascinating to see this used in comic books. And if you want to learn more about this, please go check out the history of coloring comics and how modern technology can ruin reprints. Link in the description by the amazing one and only Comic Tropes. It is one of my favorite channels on YouTube. Seriously, this guy is amazing. Go check out his video. He breaks this down far better than I can in a much more easy and digestible bite size. Now, stepping outside the world of comic books, as difficult as that is for me to do, I can see that in traditional art there actually are examples of amazing creations using this technique, and I thought it'd be really cool to put my own spin on it. But I don't want to just create a piece of art that's just using dots. I want to do something a little more unique, something that's more on brand, if you will. So I want to create a piece of art only using this stamp right here. Why this stamp? It's a bat, and I think you all know where this is going. Ever since I was little, I had a distinct memory of one of the Batman trailers. I can't remember if it was for Batman Begins or The Dark Knight, but it was an orange, red, yellowish sky with a bunch of swarming bats that formed the symbol of Batman, then dispersed, and it had the release date of the movie. That's always stuck with me, and I think what we're going to do is do something in a similar style using this stamp. But first we're going to have to pop it open and muck around with it to see what this is capable of. First off, right off the back, I absolutely love how this feels. This goes down super nice. I am noticing a little bit of a discoloring. If we do a quick one, you can see it's not as nice and fully black as our longer ones, so that's pretty interesting. And one thing that's really cool, by the way, this is a 2000 plus stamp. This is printer R17. This is a really good quality stamp. I love how the top image is the bat, so you do get the exact what the stamp looks like, including the little eyes here. I love this cover right here that actually goes over to help keep the actual ink dry. And something that's really interesting is that if you were to run out of ink, you can buy ink pads. If you pull this out right here, you can replace them. So that's a really nice touch. Now, one thing I have to actually admit is this is not my first one. This is my second one. I actually have two of these because I had this idea a while ago before I moved back to Tampa, and so I really wanted to try it, and I did some mucking around with it. Now, I learned quite a bit, including the fact that these stamps are obviously, they're not going to be like heavy industrial, so they're not really going to be alcohol proof. So we're going to have have to really think in layers and think about how we're going to do this, because while yes, we do have an almost infinite pattern we can make with it, we still have to understand what the limitations are with the actual ink of the stamp itself. I'm going to show you what I mean. Now, the sketchbook that I showed you guys was sketchbook number 5 in the beginning of the video. We're going to put that to the side and bring out sketchbook number 4, and that's where I did my first initial test. So I penciled everything and then I stamped it on top of it, and then from there I colored it with alcohol markers, and I learned a lot from this. For one, I was actually using the Pentel Blue Lead, which was way too intense and is way too distracting. Even with all the stamps, it definitely is very overwhelming. You can see all of the lines for the actual shape of Wrath. On top of that, when I put the alcohol ink on top of the stamps, it had a heavy fading, so a lot of the solid black of the stamps was lost. And with filters, I was able to get this to look good. Here's an example, but I really want to create something that looks good in person and on camera without having to put a bunch of filters into it. So what we're going to do is take everything we learned from this piece, which is that we need a lighter pencil, we need to put the alcohol ink down first, we need to then put the stamps, and take our time constructing the shape, because we are really going to be using negative space to create this image. As always, I did do a bit of sketching beforehand, so let's get into our piece of artwork we're going to make today. So here's the piece we'll be doing, and it's already prepped. I used a Pilot soft blue lead, so we won't have too much of an intense pencil showing through. We're going to cover this with red alcohol ink, and then we're going to take our time stamping and actually creating the pattern. I'm so hyped. I can't wait to see how this is going to come out. So let's go ahead and roll that super time lapse. Making this piece was a fun, but man was it a challenge, because I had curveball after curveball thrown my way. And I wasn't expecting that many, because I planned this piece in advance and did a rough test to see how I could make this. And while I did learn a lot from my test, I also learned a lot more from making this. So first off, I'm starting off by taping this piece down to my actual drawing board. Since I'm going to be applying a lot of liquid medium to the paper, and this is not watercolor paper, this is Bristol, I wanted that smooth surface to work on, I decided to tape it because I didn't want any buckling, I didn't want any curling, I wanted the page to stay as flat as possible. Definitely something I heavily recommend if you do a lot of watercolor or heavy inking like I do. It really is nice to have the pages not curl on you. From there, I decided to cover the page in red alcohol ink before I do my stamping so that I don't discolor the stamps. And I think I made a mistake here. Originally, I was just going to use some Copic markers and take my time with some other alcohol markers to make sure that everything was blended nice to my liking, but then I remembered, oh hey, I have some Ranger Alcohol Pearl Deception Red ink. And while I absolutely love the shade of red, I was not prepared for this ink because it is super like dusty and sheddy. Very weird to say about an alcohol ink, but it's true. This stuff left a red powder that got everywhere. All over my hand, my rag, my brush, my desk. It is literally covering everything. It's quite crazy. So after I took my time with my brush applying the red to it, I then took a couple of paper towels and started to just wipe the excess off to clean it and prep it. This worked really well because as I started to apply the red alcohol ink, I found that the sketch lines I made were covered and I could barely see them, which made me really nervous. But I took my time, thinned out the ink, and just worked my way applying it till I felt like it had a good coating, and then got the excess off, and then I noticed my lines again. Just to be safe, I did re-sketch on top of the alcohol ink just to make sure they were more defined so it'll be easier to see, and after giving it plenty of time to dry, I went in with my stamp. And this process didn't take that long at all. It was just figuring out the best way to show off the silhouette and the shape, finding the holes where I need to actually cover it all. It was a very fun process and something that was really relaxing, and I got really good results really quickly without having to invest a lot of time. After I was happy with all the stamping, I decided to take it outside and spray it with a Winsor & Newton General Matte Varnish just to make sure it's sealed and I wouldn't get any more red dust in random spots like my desk and my hands. And then I made sure that I had plenty of time to dry before bringing it out. I did this outside because I didn't want to spray it inside and, you know, gas myself out because, oh man, this stuff stinks. It's super high quality, super nice, but it stinks like no tomorrow, just pure chemicals. I left the piece out for 2 hours and then brought it back inside. I noticed that some of the stamps actually did fade the varnish, which was very weird. I didn't expect that to happen. So I decided to just add a few extra more stamps and just not worry about sealing that. After that, all that was left to do was remove the tape and start cleaning the edges. The alcohol ink is super fine and liquidy, so it actually bled through the tape. But that's nothing that a good flat brush and Dr. Page Martin's Bleed Proof White ink can't fix. And I just took my time cleaning the edge, and after everything was said and done, I have a piece that I am so happy with how it came out. So let's go ahead and take a look at the piece in all its finished glory. done, and guys, I absolutely love how this piece came out. Easily one of the most unique and just different pieces that we've done on the channel. I really can't think of anything else we've done that's similar to this at all. This was super fun, it was super interesting, it was a lot of problem solving, I will admit, but I enjoyed the entire process. Seriously, if you guys have not done this, please do it. It's super fun. I definitely learned a lot from this, and we're going to be revisiting this soon on the channel. Maybe even do one of Pride if we can find some snake stamps, or better yet, we could do a Batman one. Like, just imagine some blue, some gray, a little bit of yellow here. Oh man, that would be really, really cool. So please let me know what you guys think of this in the comment section down below. Do you think this was a good idea? Do you guys like it? If you like it, we're going to try it again, because I really had a lot of fun making this. In fact, I like this piece so much, I'm going to put it in my actual portfolio. That's right, this is my real portfolio that I bring to job interviews, and I'm going to put it in here because I am just 100% proud of it. In fact, we're going to put it right in here next to Mothman. So we're just going to slide that in. So please let me know what you guys think. Areas I could have improved on, things I could have done differently. You know the whole shebang. I absolutely love to hear you guys' feedback, and we are definitely going to revisit this if you guys like it. So please let me know in the comment section, leave a like, and subscribe to the channel for more art and animation-based content. Remember guys, I'm J-Rod at BLACKEST. I draw a pound my own soul. Please be creative, try this for yourself. I had so much fun, and I can't wait to just push this medium even further.